welcome in to the NASCAR Raceday live show for Texas. Really excited for this one here, back to kind of a traditional mile and a half, and get away from, the short track racing is definitely better than road course and super speedway for me, at least. But, this is kind of the bread and butter of what we get, a lot of times throughout the year. So ready to dive in here. If you guys haven't joined us over in the Discord, be sure to go over and grab a copy of the cheat sheet with the links that are in the description of the video. You can choose single sport or all sports, and get access to every sheet that we have there for NASCAR, MLB, any sport that we're covering. The Masters for round 4 showdown tomorrow. Go ahead and grab a free trial at the very least and hop in the Discord. Gonna hop right into Texas. Gonna talk a little bit about history here, some lineup construction stuff, touch on practice a little bit. Probably not as in depth as we have the last couple weeks, because there's not a discrepancy that we saw the last couple between Group A and Group B. Real quickly on that, I'll just sort by the 10-lap average, and you can see just right off the top, Group A, Group B, Group A, Group B, Group A. Lots of track pretty much looks like it was similar between the two practice sessions. So that's nice to see. We don't have to kind of guess, between the groups as to who's better. They're all kind of on the same level playing field. Now, the track, of course, could be quite a bit different, just with the timing of the race and things tomorrow compared to practice time. So definitely, things could change with, how good somebody's car is during practice versus the race. But, we'll kind of dive in and talk through that as we go through each range here. So the 10K and above range, if you look at history here, we'll do that real quick and kind of touch on how many dominators are we looking for at Texas. 267 laps, plenty of opportunity for dominator points. Last year, we saw Bubba Wallace start on the pole and lead 111 laps. We saw Kyle Larson start 11th. He led 99 laps before having some issues. And Tyler Reddick led 36. So, but really 2, maybe 3 dominators. Looks like Reddick got 16 fastest laps. Not a whole lot there. He started 15th, had some issues as well. So when you're looking at how many dominators were optimal, it's probably, just one. Because Byron started 18th, won, barely led any laps though. So when you look at that, more of a place differential play last year, but really probably a 2 dominator race last year. If you go a couple years back, 2022, much more spread out. This was kind of early on in the stages of the next-gen car that we were seeing a lot of that everywhere. Reddick led 70. Byron led 42. Keselowski 31. Blaney 29. Chase Elliott 44. Very, very spread out. So place differential came into play quite a bit that year as well, with Haley, Briscoe, and Jones all starting right around 30th and finishing in the top 6. But, couple dominators still that you were looking for there. That's kind of as far as I want to go back, just because before the next gen car, just kind of completely different, racing. I mean, just for example, we saw Kyle Larson in 2021 lead 256 laps. Byron led 55, and that was pretty much it. So I'm looking at 2 dominators this week, possibly 3, depending on pricing of some of your dominators. But feels like every week we kind of start the same way, and it's Kyle Larson off the pole, highest price driver this week, $11K. Like I said, won here in 2021, was a dominator last year, leading around 100 laps before having issues. Really like him here, as pretty much always, especially off the pole. Think he can get out front and lead some of this race, be the early race dominator. William Byron is going to start 6th. He's the second highest priced winner here last year. Hasn't really been a full-on dominator, as he's ran well here. Just the last couple years, does he have the speed to dominate the race? Yeah, for sure. Is he one of my favorites? Not really, just because of the price tag. I think, if I'm going to go all the way up here, it's going to be Kyle Larson. Byron, I think, in play as a pivot, going to be much lower owned, I'm sure. Was solid in practice. Like I said, definitely in play. Not sure, if I'll take him completely out of the pool, but I'm pretty interested to go along with Kyle Larson, some of these Toyotas. I think that this has been a pretty good track for them. Tyler Reddick, 10K. Of course, he won here before he was in a Toyota. He was in the number 8 for RCR in 22 when he won. 10K for him. He actually rates out number 1 overall in the model this week. Some of that's history, some of that's practice data, very quick on the 5, 10, and 15 lap averages. Starts 4th. I think he's one of my favorite dominators there that you could definitely play with Kyle Larson. Up front, Denny Hamlin, 10-5. I think he's in play for a dominator as well. Haven't really seen it here for Denny, but I think he's in play for sure. Blaney's the other guy. He's ran well here overall in the past, but he's probably just going to fall behind the other guys in this upper 10K range for me this week. Dropping down, Martin Truex Jr. down to Kyle Busch. Truex not been great here the last couple of years. Hasn't shown dominating speed. I think he's. You could always play him, but he's not one of my favorites. Christopher Bell, 4th here a year ago. Again, not much laps led history. Does start 3rd, so he's going to need to lead laps at 9,500. History here overall, though, is really good. Just has been a top 5 car a lot of times. Just hasn't had dominating speed. Is that a little concerning to me? Yeah. But if you look at some of the practice times, I think that's another thing that could be a little bit concerning as well. He was more in the low 17th on the 5 lap, 11th and 10. That part could be a little bit concerning as well. Chase Elliott starts 24th. Place differential guy this week at 9,300. I don't think you need him necessarily to lead laps. This has been a good track for Hendrick. I think he's definitely in play. 11th here a year ago. Has led some laps over the last couple years. Definitely think he's in play. Ross Chastain has been really good in the next-gen car here. He was 2nd a year ago, 13th in 2022. Not much, laps led upside, but in play for kind of that, can he be a 12th place starter and finish, in the top 7 or 8? I think that's in play for him. Rates out really good in the model overall as well. If you look at his practice times, he was kind of in that range, 8th on the 5-lap, 4th in the 10. So definitely Ross is in play. Kyle Busch is going to be more than likely pretty popular. Hasn't been good here in the next gen car. Just looks like he's had some issues. I don't know exactly what happened in the last couple of years. 34, 36. Starts 35th today or tomorrow. 9K. I don't like the momentum that this team's showing. But the place differential upside is definitely there for Kyle. And it's not like he's 10K. So I think you can get away with him not dominating portions of this race, top 10 finish. If you can get that from him, I think we'll go a long way. This next range, some definite interest for me in the 8Ks. Joey Logano down to Brad Keselowski. I'll actually start at the bottom. Keselowski has ran really well here, top 10 car, even in the first year of RFK. 8,200. I think that's very interesting to me. Rates out 3rd overall in the model this week. If you look at his, did not have a lot of practice. Again, I did not get to watch practice to this point. He was in Group A, but just doesn't look like he ran that many consecutive laps. Laid down the number 2 single lap time of the whole practice, but doesn't look like he even completed the 5 lap with that time there. So same with Chris Buescher. There, his teammate, quick in the single lap, but very far off in the 5 and the 10. Just doesn't look like they were, maybe they were working on things. I'm not for sure, but this is, like I said, been a good track for Keselowski last couple of years. So pretty intrigued by him at 82. Ty Gibbs starts outside the front row with Kyle Larson. Has been very good this year. Expected a leap forward for Ty. So history doesn't really mean much to me for him. 20th in 22 when he was kind of on and off with being in the car. And then in 23 was 33rd, had some issues last year. I think he's very in play. 8,500 as, you can play him with Larson as another dominator. Doesn't have to get out front right away. Will need to lead laps just because of the starting position and the prices. If he was in the 7Ks, he could maybe get away with finishing top 5. But he's definitely going to need to lead some laps here at 8,500. Logano, decent place differential look. Bubba Wallace, really good last year here. Led a bunch of laps, finished 3rd. He'll start 10th this week. His practice, he was right around a 10th place car overall. Pretty good on the long run compared to the short. So some interest there as well, as he could be another one of those, mid-range dominator options that you could go to. In the 7Ks, a lot of place differential options here. We'll just lump this, 7 and 6 together, and then we'll touch on the full punts. But Chase Briscoe, again, kind of like last week, really good history here. But he will start 5th, so you're probably going to need him to lead some laps. Don't know that he has that type of upside. So I'm kind of off of him here, but he does have good history. Noah Gragson, Daniel Suarez, and Josh Berry, I'll lump all those 3 together. All good place differential options here. 21st, 17th, and 25th starting positions. All were pretty solid in practice. Suarez was a top 10 car in practice. Gregson was the same on the long runs. So I think both of those are, very in play. And then Barry, Harvick was good here a year ago in the 4. On the longer runs, he was, lower teens place car, and he's starting 25th. I think, maybe this team is building a little bit of momentum, kind of things working together, just as the season goes on. I think they'll improve. So definitely interested in all three of those guys here. Eric Jones was 6th here in 22, some issues last year. You could definitely go to him as well in the 43 at starting 27th. Jimmy Johnson, I'll be off of him even though he's starting, last. Just a lot of unknowns there. For him, he didn't, like I said, with the RFK team, Jimmy didn't run a whole lot of consecutive laps in practice. So a lot of work going on in that car for sure. Down 6,500 and below, you've got John Hunter starts 30th, decent place differential look there. Some of the practice stuff that stands out in this range was Cindric, but he'll start 8th. Michael McDowell, but he'll start 13th. So you got to kind of make a decision. Stenhouse was a top 20 car in practice, starts 31st, and he has ran pretty well here, 9th a year ago. McDowell's been a top 15 car, does starting 13th as a top 15 enough, probably. So I think that's in play. So those two are kind of ones that I'm looking pretty hard at, is Stenhouse and Michael McDowell. Austin Hill in the RCR 33. I think, he's in play. As far as practice for him, he was kind of I'm sure they were working on a lot of things just with this not being a full-time ride. He was in the mid-20s, but he's going to start 34th, so I think he's pretty in play here. Hocevar starts a little bit too far forward for what I want, but, he's ran better than even, I expected this year. LaJoy, not a lot to write home about with him. Priest, if you go along with the Barry and Gregson, team type thing, and Briscoe as well, all having, success here, you could lump Priest into that. He starts 26. He's never really had that much success here. Kind of just a, punt option down here when you get below 6K. Got to kind of pick out one or two things on some of these guys and go with it. The interesting thing for me is if you look at, and I'll need to do a little bit more digging because I'm sure the funding is a little bit, different this year with just the approach that Colleague is taking on the Cup side. But Haley was in the 31 the last 2 years, finishing 3rd in 22 and 13th in 23. Hemrick is in that car now and starts 38th. So that's just something that, I kind of want to look into a little bit more. Potential look for Daniel Hemrick at 5,200. But again, the funding could be completely different. I'm not, they've had different drivers throughout the year there as well. Harrison Burton, top 20 the last couple of years. He starts 29th. Could look at him. Haley in a different ride, but, good history here that could carry over. Starts 32nd. Zane Smith starts a little bit too far forward for me in the 71. So, he's in play. The odds like him. Was solid in practice. And, I think you could look at him for some exposure at 5,500. That's kind of it for me. Gilliland was right around a 20th place car in practice. starts 28, so you could look there as well. Let's play around with some builds, and then we'll hop on, out of here. So again, Kyle Larson more than likely will be in the core tomorrow, and then I'll probably we'll go with Reddick as it'll either be him or Ty Gibbs more than likely. I do like the price on Ty Gibbs quite a bit as the second dominator. And then you drop down in this range, you could definitely pick two of these guys. Maybe you do a teammate correlation with Barry and Gregson. But Suarez has been, very solid here as well. So I'm going to go with Barry and Suarez, just kind of with the show build that we're doing here. That leaves you 7,500 for a couple spots. You could drop down a little bit lower, take that one of those full punts. So let's just say we take a full punt, with Zane. We're back up to 9,500, and that leaves us, plenty of options right there with Chase Elliott for place differential, Kyle Busch for place differential, Chastain as an outside third dominator. Definitely some options that you can go to there. If you drop down and do Ty Gibbs with that same build instead of Tyler Reddick, gives you a lot more salary. You could definitely play a 3 dominator build and do Larson, Byron, and Ty Gibbs. With that same build, you could get away from using the punt in that case and get back up in the mid eights for a couple spots with a Keselowski and somebody there. Maybe you do the Keselowski Busher combo with RFK. Maybe you play the third of this group and play Gregson with that team. It leaves you 9K right on Kyle Busch, I believe. Yep. So there's definitely plenty of options, but more than likely I'll be starting with Larson in the core, so I'm just going to leave that there. I will have all of my top rankings in each price range up tomorrow as well. Hopefully we have a really good day. Hope to get that up pretty soon. If you guys have any questions throughout the day tomorrow, feel free to shoot them in the Discord, shoot me a DM or whatever you're comfortable with. I'll definitely get to the answer before lock. But I'll have, like I said, probably what time is lock tomorrow, so I can kind of give a timeline for sure on rankings and things. Lock is at 3:41, so I'm guessing probably around 1:30 Eastern for rankings and cores. So be sure to check that out on the sheet. Good luck to everybody for Texas, and we'll see you back next week.